Hey, everybody, it's your boy, your host, Brandon Harrison on This Is Life. Welcome to episode 103. We are going down this journey of talking to incredible people, sharing about how they navigate through life. As you know, this is an encouragement podcast to help you navigate through. And today I have an incredible guest that I am excited to introduce to you. I'm going to ask you, so I call you Jessie or Jessica?
Let's go with Jessie.
All right, Jessie. So we have Jessie Sales, and I really want everybody to listen to find her on Instagram at I am just Jessie. On Instagram, that's I am just Jessie. Who is she? She is a leadership developer and educator. She is an operator for millionaires and high-profile clients, a leadership coach, mentor, a purpose-driven visionary, and a lover of horses. I like that about you a lot. You love working out and just you're an overall light to this world. And when I found you on Instagram, I was just like, you are really a light to this world. And I just would love to share your story, how you became so amazing, and just share with people your journey. I'll start with this question. I'm gonna jump right into it. This is a deep one.
Okay.
So the question is, what was the highest point in your life? And then what was the lowest point in your life? And what did you learn from each?
Oh my gosh. Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me. And that was quite the intro. I don't think I've ever had a podcast intro that was like that before. So thank
Yes.
you so much for that. Yeah, I would say honestly, this is gonna sound so cliche, but realistically, my highest is now. Like where I am today is it really is my highest. And my lowest, I mean, this could go two ways. So I guess out of the two, I would say that the very lowest was probably about 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago.
Mhm.
I had left a very abusive relationship. It was just super unhealthy, and I was so insecure. I didn't know how to leave, and I was kind of that girl that like I knew what was happening, and I knew he was cheating, and I couldn't handle like the verbal abuse, but I also, even though I knew that it was wrong, I wasn't strong enough and secure enough inside to leave because I believed like I'm afraid to be alone. Nobody's ever going to love me the way that he loves me, even though it
Yeah.
wasn't love.
Yeah.
um and so when I finally decided to leave that relationship, I packed up everything of importance to me and was living out of my car, and was homeless for almost a month. And so that to me was like my low, but it also was like the beginning of a new beginning.
Yeah.
So
Wow. So what did you learn about yourself in that low season?
um I realized that I could actually take care of myself.
Mm,
I was so used to other people taking care of me to some capacity that it never truly forced me to try because I was so afraid of failure and being in a position where like you're failing in your relationship and you're failing in your finances and you're failing in like your household, like your security, like you're pretty much failing in every single area of your life right now. So
yeah.
you have nowhere else to go but up from here. And
Mm,
I realized like I actually can do it.
yeah.
Like I think I can do this. And so even being in that space and having people reach out like, hey, I can give you this or I can give you that. I was like I would appreciate like it would be helpful,
Mm,
but honestly, like I think I got it right now, but thank you.
mm.
And I realized I was actually a lot stronger than I thought.
Wow. And that's what this podcast is all about, is about hearing this is life. And I always talk about how life is a journey and series of ups and downs. And that's what really just drew me to you is just your positivity, your trajectory in life. Like you said, like you're really loving where you're at now, but also just seeing the lows of the lows that you've been through, but you still have a smile, you still have so much joy, you still have so much leadership in you that you would never know that's a tough low to go through. And it's just beautiful to hear how strong you are now. And it's inspirational because I'm like, it's really so many people do just stop and say, "Oh, woe is me," and I have nowhere. Like you said, you're low. You can only go up. A lot of people think I'm low. I'm just gonna stay here, and that's what I always want to share these encouraging messages. People of like, how do you get out of that funk? How do you keep on going? So that leads to my next question of, you said this is like one of your highs of life right now. This is a tough one, but where do you see yourself in 5 years from now? What does Jessie look like 5 years from now? The ideal life for you?
You know, I see myself in a house because I'm currently in an apartment. So I see myself in a house. And I have a horse. So the biggest thing for me is I've always wanted to teach people leadership through horsemanship. And I
Mm,
always say, like, horses are great mirrors and they'll teach you a lot about yourself. And so in 5 years, I definitely want to be teaching that and then full-time speaking. So I don't get me wrong, I definitely love the experience of, like going on trips and flying private and, luxury cars and just like seeing like money drop in the bank account. Like all of those things are real freaking nice, let me tell you. But my purpose in life is not that. And
mm,
so my vision for myself really is around like I need to go where love is needed. And so wherever that looks
mm.
like, I might say today, hey, this is what my goal is in 5 years, and it's to have these things. But a year from now, the trajectory of where love is needed in that time is going to be here. And then in 2 years, it's going to be here. So, okay, I know 3 years ago I said I was going to be here and I wanted this, but this is where love needs to be today. And so I don't really know where I'm going to be at in 5 years.
Yeah,
Um, but the goal is to expand myself in a way where I can go where love is needed and pour into people in a way where today Jess may not be able to do it to that capacity, but 5 years from now, she's going to be so expansive that that's going to be like super powerful.
you just blew me away. That was the perfect answer. That's I was just talking to a mentee of mine about that. Um, that you said that perfectly because I just went to my daughter's pre-K graduation and they ask you when you get your little diploma, they're asking the kids like, what do you want to be when you grow up? And I'm like, dang, you you can change
That's a
50
loaded
times.
question.
It is. I'm like, they're 4 and 5 years old. And but you
Yeah.
answered that perfectly because I was telling my daughter, she was like, well, can I change my mind? I'm like, yeah. Because since I've been out of college, I've had like 6 different jobs and like 3 of them were totally different careers. And it's okay to do that. And I love that you said that. And I never heard it put like that of I go where love is needed. And I feel like this time, like we always in society try and make people say, you got to do this. It's the old school mind, like you're gonna do this for 40 years and then retire. It's like, no, I can do this for five
Yeah.
years and then do something else for 3 months. And
Yeah.
I'm like, do something else. I've never heard it put like that. I go where love is needed. That's a great
Yeah.
mindset to have
I
because
appreciate that.
you do grow and change. I know when I was in early 20s versus mid 20s and now I'm in mid 30s, I'm like, my passions have changed throughout those times and you got to go with that. But I
Yeah.
do want to back up to something that you said. I love that leadership through horsemanship. Where did your love for horses and leadership, where'd that come from?
Oh my gosh. I was that crazy horse girl that was like, I'm just in my room reading books about horses, and I have like huge, big encyclopedias about all the horse breeds and was just so obsessed as a little girl. And my family could never afford lessons. And so when I was finally old enough to have my own car, make some money, and then go to lessons, I just completely immersed myself in the horse world. And when I started riding and learning, I'm in my mind, I'm thinking, well, you just get on the horse and it walks, right?
Yeah.
And you just pull on the reins and they just go wherever you want them to go. And if you want them to stop, then you just pull on their mouth and they stop. And I realized that that's not actually how you ride a horse. And we see all the cowboy movies where they just get on and they yank on the reins and they kick the
Yep.
crap out of the horse. And so we think like, oh, the way you ride a horse is like a cowboy. And that's not true either. And even if you actually know like true cowboys, they don't actually ride horses like that. And so when I started to learn more about how to not just ride the horse, but how to work with them on the ground. And I was volunteering at a barn, and it eventually turned into a paid position where I was teaching. But I started out volunteering, just cleaning the stalls, feeding the horses, helping the instructors with getting the horses ready for the lessons that were coming, and just I was around them all day. Like I pretty much lived in the barn.
Oh,
um,
nice.
and I was okay with that because I learned so much about how they communicate in a herd, and how they operate when they're in a stall and they're not around other horses. And then I learned, just about like the herd mentality and the
Mm,
like the hierarchy, and like learning about like leadership, and learning that like there's good leaders in a herd and there's bad leaders in a herd. And I was talking to my mentor about it. I was like, hey, can you like, what does that mean? Like for like a horse to be a good leader or a fair leader, and for a horse to be a bad one. And so we would sit outside the pasture and she would show me, okay, you see
mm,
this one. So obviously he's like the leader. Look at how he leads. And he would make all the horses go into a corner, and he would like kick the crap out of them to like make them all stay in the corner just so he could eat by himself and nobody would take his food, even though there
wow.
was like sufficient food for all of them. And so she was like, he's not a fair leader. Like he's so aggressive, and they'll work it out to where like another dominant horse will come in and take that spot. And so when it happened, she showed me the transition, and she was like, okay, now look at Charlie. Excuse me. Charlie is a fair leader. So he will correct if there's something going on that he feels like is not good for the herd, but he
Wow.
won't go to cause harm out of like selfish ambition. He will make sure everyone's protected, everyone is fed, everybody is good, and he will give correction if he feels like it's warranted. And I was like, oh shoot. I was like, that's actually really cool.
That
And so
is.
when I started my leadership journey and I started learning about the difference between a good leader and a fair leader and a leader that's more like aggressive and controlling, I was like, oh shoot, people are like horses. Leave it to Jess to like correlate these two things together. But I was like, oh my gosh, like we're so much like horses, they're prey animals. They live
Mm,
based off of, fight or flight, and they're looking for safety. They're looking for a leader to lead them well. And so when I started to pair the two, I was like, one, I want to spend my life supporting people and helping people and going where love is needed. And I also am so obsessed with horses. I have to teach this to people. And what a great way to integrate it by incorporating horsemanship and leadership together.
beautifully said.
Sorry.
No, I'm just taking it
I
all
talk
in.
too much, so
No,
I
no, no,
hope
no.
you're ready for
That's the whole point, to share your story. I love that. You said that so perfectly. And
Thank
I just love how your brain works too, of how you tie those two together, because that is very, I love all things leadership. That's why I just love all that you put out there in the world about leadership. And that is so true. I've seen it in corporate spaces, university settings, church, everywhere. It's
Yeah.
like you can have leaders that will kick people and say, do what I say, you better do it. And then you have leaders who lead with love, lead with compassion. And like you
Yeah.
said, Charlie said, considered other people in the group. Like I've never
It's
thought of
so
looking at horses
freaking
like that.
powerful. Yeah, it really, and when I say that, like they're such a great mirror, they'll show you everything that you are and everything that you're not. And there were times where I would go into the arena with a mindset of like, today we're going to work on this one specific thing. And in my mind, I expect the horse to do what I want it to do to accomplish my desired result.
Ooh,
So take note to how like how much my ego is involved in this, right?
ooh.
So I'm not going in thinking I'm going to work with my partner to learn something together to reach the desired result. I'm going in with, this is what I want to accomplish today, so you better work with me and make it happen. And so I would go into the arena, I would start working on whatever I wanted to train. And the moment that the horse would do something different, or kind of like give me a little bit of attitude and like not want to do it, or they're not doing it correctly, I
Mhm,
would get so frustrated, like almost to the point of like tears, because I'm like, we've done
mhm,
this so many times, like how are you still getting this wrong? And like I would be so upset. And so when I would go to my mentor and say, hey, this is what, like I've been trying to work on this with this horse, they're not doing it, and like I'm just at my wits end, I don't even want to ride, like I'm just done. And she
mm.
would ask me, how are you asking the horse to do what you're asking them to do? So I would tell her, well, I'm doing this and I'm using, my leg pressure, and this is how I'm holding the reins. And she's like, oh, okay, well, it makes sense. why he's doing this. So when
Mm.
you're operating this way and your hands are holding it this way, this is what you're actually asking him to do. So even though your mind wants to do something, what your body is pulling and like pressing on him to do is a complete opposite. So what you're actually asking him to do, he's doing it, but it's not what you want him to do. And so now you're getting frustrated at him for not doing what you want him to do. And he's getting frustrated with you because you keep asking him to do something and he's doing it. But now you're kicking him to move forward when he's confused now. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like, it's not that like he's a bad horse. I'm a poor communicator. Like,
Wow.
I'm not communicating in a way that lands. And I'm not offering him enough patience to hear where he's at and to communicate it to him properly for us to get that desired result together as a team. And so when I started to correlate that with people, and I started to notice all of the friction within not just a dating relationship or family relationships or a work environment, it becomes less about what everyone's doing to you and how bad they are as a person versus being that leader that says, how am I showing up right now? Or my communication's not landing in a way that helps them understand so we can get to a desired result. And that changed everything for how I showed up as a leader.
You can write a book. You
I
need
want
to.
to.
Jeez, this is so, man, you need to get on some text pages and books. That's powerful. That could
It
solve a
is
lot. What you just
crazy.
said, family issues, marriage issues, work issues, like that hit a lot. And
Yeah.
geez, I don't even thank you for sharing that. I'm just taking all that in because that's so applicable to so many areas of life that I deal with a lot of different, like I said, married couples and helping them through different things. And that's the biggest thing. It's always communication issues. It's like, why is she not doing this? Why is he not getting this? What you said, I'm like, dang, it's not that they're a bad person. It's you're not communicating clearly. And
Mhm.
everything comes into play. Like you said, your body, your mind, your feel like your emotions, the person can feel that and well, that's powerful. Do what you said, but really not how you want it. That's you're killing it. That's man.
Yeah. And you know what's funny is even when I realized that, I would go ride a different horse thinking that like it would be like the same thing,
Ooh,
realizing like, wait, this is a completely different horse. Like, why did I think that the same result would happen with the old horse, even though this is a new one? Isn't that life? How we
yes.
expect everybody to operate the same way, and what we thought would work with the last one, we think is going to work with the next one. And that's just not the case. Like leadership is an active, living, breathing way of being where you have to actively choose how you're going to navigate a conversation, how you're going to tactically, give empathy and listen to somebody so that you can, you have to operate in a way that works with people, not just in your own thinking and own understanding. So let me let me not keep going.
I I said I didn't want to take a lot of your time. I could talk to you all day.
Same.
I love this. That is so good. It's what you just said that ties into so many things that I've seen. Like you were saying, in different relationships, you bring that old baggage or that old mindset, thinking this person's going to hurt you the same way or they're going to treat you just like this person did in a good way. But it is
Yeah.
definitely an evolving person that you have to be to say, okay, no, this job that I was at, they're not going to abuse me or overwork me. So I'm going to treat differently this person or a relationship
Yeah.
or this, even kids, each kid, I have three kids, they're all totally different. I cannot approach them the same way. Like you were saying, one needs to be
Yeah.
kicked a little bit, one needs to be yelled, one needs to be,
Yeah.
like you're saying, yanked a lot. Like you got to see what each person needs to get them motivated to do
Yep.
their best. And it's work. But what you said is such a good mindset to say, no, let me approach this horse, this person, this situation differently. That's because what I think it is, it's work. It's a lot of us are we get lazy of saying, okay, I just want to approach this person, this new relationship, this job the same way I did last time, and hopefully they'll be different. But it does take work of figuring out what this person's strengths are, what their weaknesses are, what I can lean into, and what I need to say. No, that's not my business. And we just at my job, we just did a leadership kind of retreat, and we did the strength finders, and we are just learning about what you said of how do we work well in a team, but still show up in our own strengths. How do we, but we mesh that together well, and it's hard. I'm a big sports person. I love basketball and football, and it is interesting to see like everybody has their talents, their gifts, their strengths, but to make that work in a team environment, it is definitely something that takes, like you keep saying, great and skilled leadership that's willing to assess
Yeah.
the herd, like you were saying, of saying, okay, who do I need to kick? Who do I need to yell at? Who do I need to speak softly to? Who needs a gift? Who needs encouragement?
Yeah.
It's work to lead well.
Yeah. And you know what? With what you're saying right now, it makes me think about how like social media nowadays, everybody's so encouraged or pushed to be the head, right? Be like the richest person, the best
Mhm.
influencer, the best this. I have all these things, right? Everybody wants to be the head. And as you're talking about, like everybody being able to be um everybody has like a different part of the we're all different parts of the body, right?
Mhm.
So one person might be an arm, one person might be a leg, one person might be a heart, one person might be the head. It
Yeah,
doesn't make any one person better or less than. We all have our unique gifts and talents that make us powerful when we're authentically who we are. So if I'm supposed to be an arm, but I'm like, no, I have to be the head. Okay, I'm an arm. Like I'm meant to be an arm, and all of my functions as an arm. Now I'm trying to be a head. I don't know how to be a head. Like I was not created to be a head, you know?
yeah,
And you know, when you try so hard to be a head when you were created to be an arm, you feel like you're less than. You feel like, you know, why can't I do this? Why can't I speak as good as that person? Why can't
mm,
I, you know, do this or do that or whatever? You're comparing yourself, but you're comparing yourself to something that you were not created to be. You were created to be an arm. So, okay, if I was created to be an arm, what does that look like? Now when I step into who I am as an arm authentically, right? Like this
yeah,
is what I know I'm powerful at. And think about how often you use your arm. Like how often do you use your hands? You know,
right.
your fingers, like you need all of it. So how often, how powerful is it to have that, you know? And
Mm,
when you're able to step into who you are authentically, you add value to the world in a way that you would not had you tried to be something or somebody else. And so when you have that team and you teach people, you know, don't try to be at the top, don't try to be the best number one. Who are you? What are your gifts? What are you called to do? What is your vision? What are your strengths and weaknesses? You take all of that and then you shed light on that to that person, then they can take that, absorb it all in, now step forward and say like, okay, what do I get to offer the world now? And that's far more powerful than trying to always be the head.
wow. Well, Jesse, I had so many other questions to ask you, but you said so much and that I love that I want to leave that out there for people to take in because you took this where I was hoping it would go. I didn't have to ask a bunch of questions. This was beautifully said. But I just want to ask you one last question, and you kind of answered it already. But I was looking you to share what is your life message? What is the main thing that you want people to remember about you? So I guess what is your legacy? If at the end of the day you're gone, what do you want to be remembered for, and what is your life message?
I think I just want people to know that anything that they really want to do in life is accessible to them. And I think identity and knowing who you are is
Mm,
everything.
yeah,
Because I'm 28 years old, and it wasn't until maybe 4 years ago that I truly started this journey. And my entire life, people always told me who to be and how to live. And it wasn't until about 4 years ago that I really took my life into my own hands and was clear, like, who is Jess? And
yeah.
when I became clear on my identity, that's when everything changed.
Well, I'm 35 and I just started doing this kind of work maybe 5 years ago. So I'm
Okay.
very glad to
Beautiful.
hear that because it does. I know for me, that was a big barrier for me was just family and other people who were important in my life, but they felt that they had a heavy say in the direction of my life. And that is what you said is so important to say, no, I got to get clarity for myself of who I am, where I'm going, why I'm going there. And it's a beautiful journey to get to there. And I'm so
Yeah,
glad to hear that that's where your focus is of like, this is the life that I want to lead and it's all gonna work out. I I
absolutely.
love it. So my real last question then is, what is next for you? How can people find you on social media? How can people work with you, support you? What are you going to put out there for people to contact you?
Yeah, for sure. So, I mean, the easiest way is just through Instagram. And then the spelling on it, I feel like I need to change it now, but I think is it just I am just Jessie.
Yep.
Okay, I think I changed it because before it was Jusst, and I always had to spell that out. So I
Oh,
believe it just is the correct spelling. I am just Jessie.
yep.
Instagram is the best spot to find me, DM me. I answer all my
Yep.
DMs like within the hour. So I'm currently I want to transition full time to speaking. Eventually starting my own podcast, YouTube, book, like all these things are in the works. I don't want to give, too much away, but
Yes.
honestly, like, whatever questions anybody has, DM me, message me. And I'll answer whatever questions. I do offer coaching one-on-one, and I don't advertise it too much online just because my current schedule is so packed. But if it I really only take in people that are like 100% committed to themselves.
Mm,
And so like I never ask, are you committed to me? Are you committed to the program? I don't care about that. Are you committed to you? Because if you're committed to you, then I know you'll give in 100% and I'll take on that person. So if you are somebody who is ready to make that transition of just finding your identity and creating a vision, even if you don't know what your vision is right now, but you need support in either finding a vision or creating one and creating a roadmap to really build that out, then DM me on Instagram and I will coach you through.
wow. Well, thank you for your time. And everybody who watches this, listens to this, you better go follow her. You better go be inspired, be coached by her, reach out, because that's how I got to you. Is this, like you said, you do answer. And I asked you when we on the podcast, and you said, yeah, I'm like, you were awesome. And that doesn't always
Yeah.
happen. You are an amazing soul. Like I said, light to the world.
Thank
Please
you.
follow her. I am just Jessie on Instagram and get your life changed. Get it inspired.
Yeah.
And you are just an amazing person. So thank you so much for your
Thank you.
time.
Thank you for having me.